Welcome back. So what we're going to do this lesson is talk about services and why services are valuable. Now, first of all, let's just go into Angular and read why services are valuable. It says components shouldn't fetch or save data directly, and they certainly shouldn't knowingly present fake data. They should focus on presenting data and delegating data access to a service. So think of it this way: services is going to be kind of our access point to talking to whoever persists or work with our data. Right? So the service in our case is going to be an access point to the data source. So it's going to be a way for us, the service is going to provide a way for us to get data, save data, update data, delete data, read all data, or read only a single, or maybe search page. The service is going to provide information about how to do that, because we're going to reuse the service in all our components, and then that means that if we're going to use the service inside the customer list, it's going to retrieve all, and we're going to look at details, it's going to only retrieve one, but it's going to use the same file, the same service. So the service responsibility will be to know how to get and work with data from somewhere, some kind of data source. So that's kind of what a service is going to do for you. And now let's try and figure out how we can implement it. So as we scroll down the page right here, you can actually see this is the command to generate a new service. So again, there's a command available. Let's copy that, paste it in here, and now what we want to do is we want to generate a service. So that's what I write: ng, g for generate, service, because we want to generate a service. And now we need to put in a name. Let's just add a folder here for now, and let's just call the directory for services. There we go. No, oh, I put it in the wrong place. I want to put it in shared, because again, services is going to be shared. It could be used in any of my epic stories or in any of my feature stories. So we're going to put it in the shared folder. There we go. Now we have services available in the same folder as our models. There we go. Services available. And let's just try and write /shared, because it's inside the shared directory that we have the services. There we go. / and then I want to put my service inside services. And the final thing is to give it a name. And my service is just going to be called customer, because it's a customer service that I want to provide. So this service right here is going to actually provide all the functionality that we can do in the customer epic story. So for instance, it might be able to create new customers, read all customers, search customers, page customers, get a single customer. All these things will now be moved into this new customer service. And there we go. It creates these two files for me. One of them is the TS file, is the actual service, and the other file is just a testing file if you want to use that later on to start testing your service. And I think if you're to test anything in Angular, I think the service is probably the most important one to test. Just as a side note, if we want to do testing later, I'll show you how to start using this. Jumping back to the service right here, it's a very simple file. The one thing that you should notice is something called add injectable in the top, because that actually means that we can now dependency inject services into our constructors inside the components when we need them. I'm going to show you this very soon. But that's kind of why we have this injectable tag right here. It pretty much just means that we can now start using dependency injection with the actual service. So let's just add our first function right here. It's going to be called get customers, and it's going to be a function that can return all customers. Let's just try and call it, let's rename that. There we go. Get customers. That's better. And just add curly brackets .end. Now we have a way to kind of get the customers. Now right here I'm using type safety as well. So I'm trying to explain to the system that the customers is going to return a list of customers. Now this is a bit different than what you use in Java and C#, because if you notice, I'm just adding the return type after the method name, right? In C# and Java, you're used to adding the return type before the actual name of the function. But here you do a colon, and then you add the return type after the function name, right? I import the customer like we've done so many times, and there we go. Now I need to, of course, also actually return an actual list of customers. So let's just go and steal it from here. Let's just start by getting the list of customers, and let's also get this initialization of the customers and add that inside my service. I'm just going to add in the constructor, because this is only going to happen once. A service is going to be initialized one time when I start my program. There we go. Now we have the list of customers available, and I can then return that list of customers. Now remember, again, you have to use this keyword when you actually want to return it. That's it. So now I actually have my first method available in my service, and again, the responsibility of the service is going to be working with the data. So later on, we're going to change this local list of customers into actually being something we get from a REST API, but not now. Let's just keep it basic for now. Let's take the customer service, and actually start using it inside our customer list component. And this is where we're going to start using dependency injection. Let's just clean this up for now. There we go. So the way you dependency inject is you add the private keyword. You can also add public if you want to use this directly in the HTML, but they encourage you to use the private keyword right here. I'll put the private keyword, I'll give it a name, some kind of name. In my case, I'm just going to call it customer service. Oops, let's put it in uppercase S, there we go. And then I'm going to put in a colon, and again I'm going to explain the type of the service right here, and that's going to be the customer service, there we go. So again, the first private, that's because I want to keep it private, right? And then I'm putting in the name of the service, so I have a local variable name, and then the final thing is the actual type that I'm going to use. Sweet, let's just get rid of this again. I know I've removed it before, but I'm going to do it again now. There we go. We'll put it back in a second. And then what we're going to do is we're going to again add just a list of customers. I didn't want to remove that. I by mistake, I cut it instead of just copying it. So I still want my list of customers. But instead of actually generating the list of customers now inside the component, I'm going to ask the service to kind of provide this list of customers for me. So I'll say this list of customers, which is the local list right here that I created at line 12. I'm going to use this customer service, and because it's private, I have to put this keyword in front of it, this.customer service dot, and then I created a function in there called get customers. There we go, and that's actually now going to return the list of customers for me. So again, notice I just removed the responsibility of creating an array of customers into the customer service. Now, right now, it still does the same thing as before. It just creates a dumb list of customers, but it's up to the service now how we want to get that data from somewhere in the world, right? So let's just have a look at it again. We have the constructor right here that creates a simple static list for now, and it just returns that list inside my customer function, right? So that guy is going to handle the data now. There we go. And inside my list, it's going to, of course, go and use that data that it gets from the customer service, right? So again, the responsibility is kind of split up now. The component uses the data, the service figures out how to get and handle the data. Sweet. Let's try and jump into our application, and everything is still running. No different here than what you saw last lesson. Everything is still it's just going and getting the data now from a service instead of actually having the data information directly inside the components. So before we end this, let's actually just add one more thing. I just want to add a small function here just to kind of give you guys a way to kind of understand services. If you want to later add a customer, which I removed just before, I will start adding functions like this where I want to be able to add a customer. That'll also be a thing I need inside my service. And again, I just put in, it's going to send in a property of customer of the type customer. And again, look, compared to Java again and C#, it's kind of switched around again. I put in the property first, colon, and then the type. And there we go. Now I have a way to kind of add a customer. Let's just put in a to-do right here because I'm going to add that in the next lesson. So you guys kind of know that that's going to be added again. But now notice I put the responsibility of the function into the service instead of having the responsibility of adding a customer inside the component. And that means that anybody, anywhere inside my code after I've made this service can just use my service and reuse the code of adding customers anywhere they want to. So that's it for this lesson.